everybody, Karyn Bryant here talking with Beneil Dariush, who of course is the main event at UFC Austin against Arman Tsarukyan. This is such a great matchup. It's such a great matchup, but all of your matchups, Benny, I feel like, oh my gosh, he's fighting again. It's going to be a great fight. But what do you think
Yeah,
about this matchup?
I mean, I love the part where you say, "Of course, he's the main event," and I'm like, "Man, it's been a long time coming." It definitely
Yeah.
feels like it's definitely been a very long time coming. So I think I'm like 10 years in the UFC, maybe. It'll be in January, 10 years. So, pretty excited about the matchup. Arman is a great fighter. He really can do it all, and he's very dangerous everywhere. So I'm looking forward to fighting him and solving the puzzle because he's got a interesting puzzle to him.
And what do you think that the puzzle part is about him? Mostly just that his, because I worked the fight in Russia when he debuted and like he was kind of brought in to lose, and we were like, oh my gosh, this guy's unbelievable, and he's
Yeah.
been doing so well. Where do you think the puzzle is? Where's the biggest part of the puzzle?
So I would say he has some similarities to Gamrot, but not really like Gamrot. I would say he's more aggressive in his striking, and overall, I would say he's better a striker. I think, and so what that allows him to do is engage his wrestling better. So he strikes with you, and then he can find his wrestling and his timing. And so that's an interesting puzzle, Gamrot was really trying to force the wrestling with me. I know he's going to try to strike with me more, and so that should be interesting, right? Seeing how he changes timing and things like that, and I want to see if I can take him down and apply my game. It's just there's a lot of variables that I think makes the fight really interesting, and there's so many different ways the fight could go.
Well, also, if we employ any of our MMA math, you've already won because you've beaten Gamrot and Gamrot has beaten Armin, so you've already won.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not a big MMA math guy. If I was, I wouldn't have even taken this fight. I
Yeah.
know how good he is. I know what he's capable of, so that's why I was interested in this fight.
Okay, but you're fighting behind you again, which I know you've done a lot in your career because you either didn't get the fight that you wanted or you wanted to stay active or for whatever reason, whatever reason. Oftentimes I feel like you've fought behind you and I don't feel like you've gotten as many like opportunities ahead of you as other people. Am I wrong or am I just imagining that wrong?
I think you're right, and currently I think this is the reason why. For example, I think I'm high risk and low reward. I'm not out there trash talking and making. I don't work very hard to make my name bigger, I guess, and to keep my name in people's mouths. And so I think that's the reason why I don't always get people ahead of me, and I get people behind me. And so that's kind of how it goes. But at the same time, my goal in MMA isn't to have a bigger name. My goal is to fight the best guys in the world. And so I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where a lot of the best guys are actually ranked behind me. So it works perfectly for me. I really believe guys like Gamrot, guys like Arman are the future of this weight class, and they're incredible fighters. So I want to have my opportunity to fight these guys.
I will say there, and I agree with you. And the thing about it is, when Armin Sarukian showed up, when Mateusz Gamrot showed up, I right away liked them because I almost felt like they were following your lead as your kind of a fighter, right? So now it's the type of thing where you have to face them, and as a viewer, as a fan, it's like, yeah, these are great matchups. I want to see them, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, well, it's Beneil versus the newer version of Beneil, and I don't know how
Yeah.
I feel about that.
So yeah, the whole I can see what you're saying there, but that's the thing. For MMA, listen, if you're not getting better in MMA, you're
Yeah.
pretty much getting worse because everyone's getting better. They're all the time getting better. If you show up the same way you were 5 years ago, you're getting crushed out there. So I think that's what makes it exciting for me. There's newer versions or whatever you want to call them, and they're very good. So do I have the experience? Have I continued to improve? Have I brought new things to the table in order to beat these guys? And that to me makes it exciting. And if you look at it like too much as like, oh man, I'm stuck fighting these guys, blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah blah. You can't get bitter, and once you get better, it really it messes with your judgment and your ability to fight. So I just I take joy in the fact that I get to fight the toughest guys in the world.
And I feel that that kind of philosophy and that mindset is applicable to anything because I even, if I'm honest with you, I sometimes am like, well, there's certain things that should have already come to me because I've put in the time and I dang it, I deserve my respect and I deserve these things that I've worked all these years for. And then the other side of me goes, yeah, but you got to still keep at it. You can't just expect it because you made it here. You have to keep proving you're, worth it or you're this or that. So I definitely understand that mentality. So what do you think then are the things that you've added more recently? Because I say they're similar to you and they are and they aren't. And it's funny because I feel like initially you were a grappler. I read something the other day. They were like striker Beneil Dariush. And I was like, striker Beneil Dariush? What? But you are, you're everything now.
So I would say the things that I've improved a lot in the last couple of years would be my wrestling.
Yeah.
And I was always working on my wrestling, but
Mm-hmm.
jiu-jitsu is my background. But I spent a lot of time on wrestling to improve it, and I spent a lot of time just collegiate wrestling and drilling like how you would in a high school or a college, and I
Mm-hmm.
trained with good wrestlers. That's something I did a lot of, and then I've been spending a lot of time on I would say I guess just striking fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
Minimizing every action is what I would say I focus a lot on now. It's just minimizing everything from the way I answer to the way I block, because the less I move in terms of uh, getting to the from point A to point B, the more effective I am, and I conserve more energy. So
Right.
really my goal is just been to be more efficient in pretty much all that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And as simple as it sounds, it's actually really hard to do because, for example, take jujitsu, and this is something I'm still working on.
Yeah.
I when I came into the UFC, I had gotten my black belt. I was supposed to be the next big thing in jujitsu, but I moved over to MMA. So it's like, there's not a whole lot you're gonna add to your jujitsu, but that's not true. There was still a ton to add, and then same thing with wrestling, same thing with striking. There's always more to add, and sometimes you can get just tired of it, and you're just like, no, I'm good enough. I got the skills. I'll just improve those skills, and or I'll just get my skills sharp, and that'll be
Yeah.
enough. But no, it's not. You always have to bring new things to the table. You always have to add, and that's, if anything's difficult in this sport, I think that's the most difficult thing. Sometimes is relearning a skill, or sometimes is bringing new things to the table.
That makes a lot of sense. And to have already been in the position that you're in, you're already ranked so highly. Yes, it would make sense that, and we hear this often. People are going along and they just say, well, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And then either they lose a fight or maybe they have an injury or something, and then they're like, well, it actually gave me time to fix some stuff,
Yeah.
which does happen. So I don't want to bring it up, but I have to ask, after the fight with Charles, what did that do for you in terms of was that a point that made you sort of shake things up? Was that I mean, I don't know what happened. I read something where you said you sort of didn't show up. It wasn't you that night. I don't know. Sometimes people say they like it's terrible because you can have an amazing camp, and on the walk to the octagon, you're like, I'm not in the mood today. So it's crazy.
It's really hard. I've been trying to figure it out myself, but I just didn't feel like I performed well that day. Obviously,
Okay.
I from everything we did in camp and all the all the skills I had sharpened, I just don't think I really showed it, and that's why I say I don't feel like I showed up. I think I'm capable of doing much better than that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I believe I can win that fight. But unfortunately, that night I didn't. Charles was the better man, and I don't want to make too many excuses because then I'm taking away from Charles's victory.
Yeah.
He did a great job that night, so I just leave it at that. I know it wasn't my best performance, and the goal is to be better. So there's plenty of things to work on. So I came back and I just kept working. I wouldn't say I changed anything in terms of like strategies or game plans or whatever. It's just improving everything
Mm-hmm.
from every skill set. I just try to get better.
Mm-hmm. And I am curious too when, because sometimes we'll hear people like, oh, this guy's a great grappler. And they're maybe like you, they're great at jiu-jitsu, and then they're like, yeah, but I was really working on my wrestling. And I'm always curious what it is that, is it just positioning? Is it just the grind? Is it about going into the deep waters? Is it the drowning? What specifically do you find the nuances of working on your wrestling more? How does that improve your jiu-jitsu as well?
Okay, so wrestling, what I would say, it really helps with the jujitsu is control. The better you are at wrestling, the better you're able to control your opponents, and don't let them up. That's one thing. And the details of wrestling, sometimes they're actually counterproductive to jujitsu. So you have to know how to mesh them together, because if you wrestle just like a pure wrestler, it'll get you in trouble a lot with jiu-jitsu guys. So it's being able to bring them together and making them work. That's something that I think takes a lot of nuance. And as far as jiu-jitsu goes, jiu-jitsu is developing all the time. So you can have a move, and that move will be effective still, but there's one that's more effective and more efficient as well. So it's always looking for these things. And then let's say I learned 10 new moves, but because my game is already, it's already so seasoned, I would probably maybe add only one of those moves to my game, but that's still a big jump. That's
Yeah.
still a big improvement. I like a beginner, a white belt will go into a class and learn maybe 3 moves or 6 moves that week, and all 6 of them he can use.
Yep.
It's not so much like that for older guys. So that's one of the things I try to learn as much as I can, and then see where it fits into my game. And if it doesn't, well, then it doesn't. But at least I picked something up that could be useful maybe another time, or it could be useful for someone else.
Right. It's I love to it's fun when you still like get the joy of discovery too, right? It's probably fun for you when you're like, hey, wait a minute, I walked in here, I didn't know how to do that thing, now I know how to do it. It's pretty cool.
It's really crazy to think about, because sometimes I'll learn a move and I'm like, I wish I knew this 5 years ago.
Yeah, right.
You know
You're
what I
like
mean?
you're flashing back to fights. You're like, son of a gun.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm 34 years old. I've been doing jiu-jitsu since I was 18, and martial arts in general,
Yeah.
from all of it. And then there's still times where I'm like, why didn't I think about that? Why didn't I think about doing it like that
Right.
uh, 10 years ago, 5 years ago? So
Yeah.
it's that part for sure is really cool. The discovery part is really cool, and now more than anything, I really enjoy problem solving. I don't think I enjoyed problem solving as much as before, but the puzzle that each opponent brings is a different. It's different, so it's a different problem to solve, and I think I've started to enjoy that process more than before. Before I would
Nice.
really, I still, this is still my favorite thing to do, but breaking my opponents is probably my favorite thing to do. But problem solving is getting more fun as well.
And I mean, obviously, in that moment, be it a jujitsu match, be it just at the gym, be it in the middle of a fight, you can feel it, right? When you know you've broken them.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely, you know the feeling. And it's before it happens. Typically, what happens, they start slowing down and you start picking up, and that is a clear indicator that you're heading in different directions, and you know what's going to happen. And the more they slow down, the more all of a sudden you pick it up, so it's pretty fun. Yeah.
Nice. I have to wonder what is more satisfying to you. You've had, clean knockouts that were kind of short nights at the office, and you've been in complete battles that where you had to leave it all out there. Which one of those is kind of your favorite at night for a day at the office?
Um, it's hard to say, because overall I still prefer a submission. I think
Yeah.
over a knockout. But there's something interesting about knocking people out too, because sometimes it feels like you didn't even hit them. It literally just doesn't even feel like you hit the person and they went down. And then as far as decisions go, I love that grind. I love that push, and seeing where we get to the fights that I can, like right now, that I can think of, or that were really difficult. Gamrot and Diego Ferreira, they were really interesting because I can normally feel guys break and start to slow down. I felt Gamrot slow down, but he never broke. From the until the last second, he was looking to find a way to win. Until the last very second, and it's kind of similar with Diego Ferreira. I
Yep.
heard him in the second fight we had, and he still came back. And I felt him tired in the third, but he didn't give up. And fights like that, it's really interesting because I always think to myself, well, what would happen if we went another round?
Right.
And so now this fight, I have that opportunity.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I'm excited, and it's going to be fun that we have a crowd. Nothing against the Apex. I'm heading out the Apex in the morning, but it's something great about having a crowd. One thing I want to ask you before I let you go, though, you're talking about adding wrinkles and adding new things, and yet at the same time, though, we know that you and Hoffa are still quite the pair. And it's interesting because people come and go from gyms, or they go and they get new looks, or they want different things or whatever through the course of their career. But what is it about Hoffa that keeps you coming back, even if you do go dabble other places? What is it about him that keeps you coming back?
I think Rafael Cordeiro, what he's done, the reason why he's transcended these generations. It's not like he's new to the game,
Right.
and he's like the new big thing as far as a coach. He's been a coach for a long time, and he's been at the top of it for a long time. And I think the reason for that is his constant desire to improve. He'll watch fights and he'll point out things that I still don't notice, and from those things he'll put combinations together. He'll put games together, game plans, and things like that. So I think his desire to learn and improve is what allows him to stay relevant basically in our
Mhm.
sport, because you see a lot of coaches come and they'll have like a period of just they're the best coach in the game, and then they'll just kind of disappear. But he's been able to do it for so long. I mean, we're talking before Pride and then to now. That's a long time. So I think that's what makes him so special, is just his ability um, to gather information and then apply it. Gathering information in terms of watching fights, and
Mhm.
gathering information. I've never seen anyone do it as well as he does, to be honest.
Nice. Well, and have of course we have to ask, like, have you trained with Tyson? Because those clips with Hoffa training Mike Tyson are insane. Just like the amount of like the thought of holding pads for Mike Tyson is crazy. So, but have you been able to train with him? Have you cracked with Mike at all?
The only thing I've done is watch those training sessions, and they've it's incredible to see a man his age to move like that. And he's faster than I am. And I'm lighter than him, and I'm younger than him, but he's
Yeah.
faster than I am. In the way he moves, it's I would say he's one in a billion, because you
Right.
don't see anyone move like that with his weight. And then on top of that, the angles he adds to it, because his
Hmm.
speed very impressive. But there's a lot of fast fighters out
Sure.
there. That's not. It's the angles he can create, and then at the same time with those angles generate power and then close the distance. To
Yeah.
to be able to do all that, and just that's what made him so great. That's what made him so special.
Yeah. It's, and I honestly, I enjoy seeing like the second coming of it, like his like second life, you know what I mean, as an MMA mentor. Like Mike, like everybody loves him. It's great to have him around, and then the fact that he is still so active, and like it's just cool that he's here and part of our game now.
You know, if you think about it, as far as lows, like the lows of the lows and the highs of the highs,
Yeah.
no one's gonna, you can't really say anybody's had worse than Mike. The highest of the highs and the lows of the lows, right?
Hmm.
And because of that, he can speak to a fighter, and the fighter has to listen. Whether you're a boxer or you're an MMA fighter, but when he speaks, people listen, and I think it has to do with his history and what he's gone through. And so, I like to listen to him. I like to get as much information as I can when he speaks. And the few times I've been around him, even though there's so much I want to say, I typically just shut my mouth and see what he has to say, because I'm sure it comes from experience, and I want to know what that experience is. So I try to listen more than speak when he's around.
That makes a lot of sense because I know your point. Like, there's part of you that's like, there's times when I meet people, I'm like, oh, I want to impress this person, or like, I want to chat them up. I want them to know how fabulous I am, and like, but I'm at the same time like, they've done it all. I just want to chill and take it in, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah,
And I don't think I'm going to tell Mike Tyson that's anything that's going to be so impressive, but when he speaks, it's
yeah.
interesting. He says things that I sometimes you don't think that way, so yeah, it's really good to be around that.
Nice. Well, I do. I love it, and I love to see it. And I haven't seen Hoffa in a minute, so I'm happy that I'll be able to see you guys down in Austin. And last thing is just that it does seem sort of generally that a lot of the matches now are kind of like veteran and newcomer, or they do kind of mix these things up. And we have sort of talked about how Tsarukyan, there's a lot about him that I feel like a lot of people would compare him to you. So but you've been in the UFC for a while. What do you make of the new level of talent? Because like when you got here, obviously people are good, but you always hear people say, well, people were good when I got here, and then everybody now is like this. And so it's crazy. Like you could have people ranked behind you. You're already number 4, but you have people ranked behind you that are unbelievable. And I'm just curious what you think of not only just Arman and these guys coming up, but yeah, just in general, lightweights always had such great talent. It just seems like the next generation is really unbelievable.
I think it's a treat
Yeah,
I mean, if you don't have an ego, it's a treat
yeah.
to see the future and to see them just improve, to be able to watch athletes who are pretty much black belts and everything, and they just got to the UFC. That's, to me, is really impressive. So it's a treat, and I really look forward to see what their peak will be, what they will look like at their best. And then imagine them fighting someone else with that same level of skill at their peak. That I thought really that's really intriguing to me, and I think it, it's something that I consider a blessing because we didn't even know if MMA was going to be around for a long time.
Right. Right. It's true. It's amazing. Who's going to beat Islam?
Uh, if I can get my hands on him, I will definitely get it done. But
Yeah.
let's see. Charles is fighting him next.
Yeah.
Justin can pull it off. So can Charles. Justin. The thing with Justin is Justin needs to fight like a calculated man, almost like he's a tax guy or something. He needs to be super calculated because Justin has a he has this I don't know how to put it, but he has this desire to get into firefights.
Yeah.
And I know he says he doesn't, but you can see it. He has a desire to get into firefights, and then the fight becomes almost 50-50. Against guys like Makachev, you want to use a calculated approach because he's very calculated. Taking big risks most likely will fail. So I think Justin can do it if he fights really calculated. He's tough to take down. He's got great kicks. He's got great punches, lots of power, and he can hurt you. I think Charles can do it, but I think Makhachev, their first fight, kind of Makhachev has so much confidence, and he's gonna have he's just gonna be superior. I think in terms of the grappling. I think that's where I think actually really hurts him is that Makhachev is just superior in the grappling, but Charles could do it. We've seen Charles come back from defeat before, so he could definitely do it. But I really believe if I get my hands on him, I think I would. I think out of everybody, I would have the easiest fight with him.
Well, and with all the extra work you're putting in on the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu's already there, we know you've got bombs if you want to drop them as well. So I hope you get the chance. I'll just think of the Oliveira thing as a little bump in the road, a little reset, and hopefully we do see you versus Makhachev because I think it would be such an awesome fight. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Lord willing, next year. That's the goal.
It would be awesome. Well, listen, I'm excited to catch up with you. It's been a minute. I can hear your little baby girl in the background. And she's already on the mats, right? I've seen pictures of you. Is she actually doing jiu-jitsu yet, or she just goes to the gym with you?
She goes and she plays in the. I don't really want her doing jiu-jitsu. I'd rather her like dance or play
Yeah.
tennis or something. The last thing I need is my kids, my daughters, to fight. They say, "Oh well, you did jiu-jitsu, yeah, okay. Well, you fought.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'd
Yeah.
rather just have them go dance and fall in love with that or something, or play tennis and fall in love with that.
Listen, tennis is a great sport for girls to get scholarships and things like that. You know what I mean? So, yeah, agree with you on
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
Well, again, this is such a great matchup. You versus Tsarukyan main eventing in Austin, Texas. The crowd in Austin last time I was there was awesome. So I know this is going to be really, really great. And just appreciate you taking the time today and best of luck. I'm sorry that you can't really enjoy Thanksgiving though, right?
Yeah, it should be fine. I
You
don't.
sure?
I'll just eat a lot of because here's sometimes what I'll do is I'll have one meal
Yeah.
and then I'll fast for the rest of the day. Maybe I'll do
Okay.
that on Thanksgiving.
Okay. 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 Great. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you fight again, and just in general, always great catching up with you. And look, the next generation, whatever they have a role model in you. You've always been so respectful to everybody. I don't. It's impossible to not like you. Like there's nobody that doesn't like you. So,
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Karen.
all right, Beneil, I'll see you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.